The year was 2087. Earth had changed much in the past decades. People lived on the Moon and Mars now, though in small numbers. Ships powered by fusion energy explored the outer planets. Despite these achievements, humans had not met any alien life. Many wondered if they were alone in the universe. Dr. Alan Pierce sat in the quiet control room of the New Horizons Observatory in New Mexico. For 8 years, he had searched the stars for signals. For 8 years, he had found nothing but cosmic noise and the occasional pulsar. Tonight was different. "Hey, can you check this reading?" he called to his assistant, Lisa Weaver. "I'm seeing something odd in the Tau City sector." Lisa walked over, coffee in hand. "Probably another satellite. The Chinese launched a new cluster last week." "No, this is coming from 12 light years away, and it's..." He adjusted the equipment. "It's repeating in perfect mathematical sequences. Prime numbers." Lisa's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. "You're kidding." Alan shook his head. "Call the director. Now." Within days, observatories around the world confirmed Alan's discovery. Someone out there was sending a message. Before humanity could even begin to decode it, the sender arrived. The massive ship appeared suddenly in orbit around Earth, causing worldwide panic. Military forces went on high alert. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times or the beginning of a new age. 3 smaller craft departed the enormous vessel and descended toward the United Nations headquarters in New York. Television crews broadcast the landing live to nearly 9 billion people. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Concordate. Their leader, Ambassador Zelnar, was tall and blue-skinned with 4 arms and eyes that shifted color as he spoke. His voice sounded musical even through the translation devices. "We greet Earth with peaceful intentions," he announced to the gathered world leaders. "Your radio signals have been detected for some time, and we have determined your species has reached the threshold of interstellar awareness." President Elena Garcia of the United American States stepped forward. "We welcome you to Earth and hope this marks the beginning of friendship between our worlds." Ambassador Zelnar made a gesture that seemed polite but somehow condescending. "Indeed, we have come to offer Earth protectorate status within the Concordate. This is a great honor for developing species." The world leaders exchanged glances. "Protectorate?" President Garcia asked. "We were hoping for full diplomatic relations. Earth has much to offer." Ambassador Zelnar's eyes shifted to a shade of yellow. "With respect, your civilization has barely mastered atomic energy. You have no artificial gravity, no faster-than-light travel, no neural interfaces. Your development level is charming, but quite primitive by galactic standards. Over the next week, the aliens showed humans technology that seemed magical. Ships that needed no fuel, devices that could heal almost any injury, screens that floated in midair. Every demonstration made Earth's achievements look like children's toys. Dr. Alan Pierce was invited to tour the alien ship. He brought along Captain Olivia Sutton of the United Earth Defense Force, hoping a military perspective might be useful. "This is our navigation center," explained Velix, a junior Concordate scientist assigned as their guide. "From here, we can plot courses through fold space to any sector of the galaxy." "Fascinating," Alan said, taking notes. "The math involved must be incredible." Velix made a sound like gentle laughter. "The mathematics are indeed complex. I doubt humans could grasp the principles without several centuries of additional development." Captain Sutton frowned. "We're quick learners." "Of course," Velix replied, not bothering to hide his doubt. "Now let me show you our garden deck. We've recreated plants from over 30 worlds. You'll find it most colorful." Later, as they returned to Earth on a shuttle, Olivia fumed. "Did you notice how they treat us? Like we're clever pets who learned a new trick." Alan nodded. "They've been exploring space for thousands of years. Compared to them, we probably do seem primitive. That doesn't give them the right to dismiss us," Olivia replied. "They're establishing an outpost on the Moon without even asking permission. They're just assuming we'll accept protectorate status. What choice do we have? Their smallest ships could probably destroy our entire fleet." Olivia stared out the window at Earth growing larger below them. We should at least prepare ourselves, just in case. In case of what? They seem peaceful enough. In case they're wrong about us being primitive. 3 months later, the United Nations voted to accept protectorate status in the Galactic Concordat. The aliens established their base on the far side of the moon and rarely visited Earth afterward. Occasionally, small groups would arrive to study human culture, taking notes and samples before departing again. They seemed particularly interested in human art and music, though they often described it as refreshingly simple. Captain Olivia Sutton was promoted to admiral and given command of Earth's small space fleet. Most politicians saw this as a ceremonial role now that Earth was under Concordat protection. Why spend money on ships when the aliens could defend them if needed? Olivia disagreed. In private meetings with military leaders, she pushed for continued development. We can learn from their technology without becoming dependent on it, she argued. If we ever need to defend ourselves, we can't rely on others. General Frank Rodriguez shook his head. Defend ourselves against what? The Concordat controls this entire sector of the galaxy. There are no threats. There are always threats, Olivia replied, and I don't like depending on the goodwill of people who think we're primitive. Despite resistance, Olivia managed to maintain funding for several key projects. New ships were built incorporating what little alien technology the Concordat was willing to share. Training continued. Weapons were developed and tested in secret. 5 years passed. The novelty of alien contact faded. Most people rarely thought about the Concordat base on the moon. Life on Earth continued much as before, though with some new technologies that had filtered down from the aliens. Better medicines, more efficient energy systems. Then the reports began. Strange news filtering through the minimal diplomatic channels Earth maintained with the Concordat. Unusual ship movements, resources being redirected, emergency meetings of the Galactic Council. Admiral Sutton noticed the changes first. More Concordat ships were arriving in the solar system, but they weren't the usual sleek diplomatic vessels. These ships showed signs of damage, burn marks on their hulls, missing sections, hasty repairs. When questioned, Ambassador Zelnar claimed they were simply conducting training exercises. But late one night, as Olivia reviewed sensor data in her office at Earth Defense Headquarters, she received an unexpected visitor. It was Velex, the Concordat scientist who had first shown them around the alien ship years ago. He looked nervous, his color-shifting eyes now a solid gray. "Admiral Sutton," he said quietly, "I need to speak with you in private. The Concordat has not been honest with Earth." "About what?" Olivia asked, her years of suspicion suddenly validated. "About the war," Velex replied. "The war that's coming here." Admiral Olivia Sutton stared at Velex, the alien scientist who had just mentioned a war. Her office suddenly felt very small. "What war?" she asked. "The Concordat told us your civilization hasn't had a real conflict in centuries." Velex's gray eyes darkened. "That was true until recently. 6 months ago, our outposts on the galactic rim detected something we've never seen before. They call themselves the Swarm. What are they? We don't fully know. They appear to be partly biological, partly mechanical. They consume everything in their path. Resources, technology, even entire worlds." Velex seemed to shrink as he spoke. 3 major Concordat planets have already fallen. Olivia felt a chill. "And your leaders didn't think to warn us?" "The Galactic Council believed they could contain the threat. They were wrong." Velex moved closer. "The reason more ships are coming to your solar system is because Earth has been designated as a refugee waypoint." "A what?" "Your planet is considered..." Velex paused, searching for words. "Strategically insignificant. The Council believes the Swarm won't bother with Earth. They've decided to use your system as a gathering point for refugees while our military regroups." Olivia's face hardened. "So they're using us as bait? Or a shield?" "Not intentionally. But yes, that may be the result." The next morning, Olivia called an emergency meeting with Earth's Defense Council. General Rodriguez scoffed at her warnings. "You've never trusted the aliens," he said. "This sounds like paranoia." "I have a source inside the Concordat," Olivia insisted. "Something is coming and we need to prepare." The politicians argued for hours. Some believed her, others didn't. In the end, they agreed to quietly increase military readiness while seeking official confirmation from Ambassador Zelnar. The Concordat ambassador denied everything. "Admiral Sutton is mistaken," he told the United Nations. "The Concordat faces no existential threat. The increased ship activity is merely a cultural exchange program." But more damaged ships continued to arrive in Earth's solar system. Meanwhile, in Chicago, engineer Susan Rivera worked late in her lab. For months, she had been developing a new type of armor, using Earth's abundant iron and carbon materials in novel combinations. The composite was lightweight but remarkably strong. "Test 47 complete," she told her computer. Impact resistance increased by 28% over previous version. Her colleague Ben Carter looked up from his workstation. "That's impressive. The military will definitely want this." Susan shook her head. "I already sent samples to the Defense Department. They said our armor is obsolete compared to Concordat energy shields." "Did you try showing it to the aliens?" "Yes. Their science attaché called it charming but primitive technology. He barely looked at it." Ben walked over to examine the material. "Well, I think it's brilliant. Maybe they don't need strong physical armor because nobody shoots actual projectiles at them anymore." Susan smiled tiredly. "Maybe, but I'm not giving up yet." Across the globe, strange reports began appearing. People claimed to see unusual lights beyond Jupiter's orbit. Amateur astronomers detected objects moving at impossible speeds. The Concordat dismissed all questions, but tension grew. Major Daniel Kelly of Earth Intelligence sat in a dark room beneath the Pentagon, reviewing satellite footage. Something had destroyed a monitoring station near Neptune, but the images were unclear. "Run it again," he told his team. "Slow it down by half." The Sioux. Grainy video showed a brief flash, then nothing. Daniel frowned. "Sir?" called one of his analysts. "We're picking up unusual communications from the Concordat base on the moon. Lots of encrypted traffic. Can we crack it?" "Working on it, but their tech is centuries ahead of ours." Daniel stood up. "Keep trying. And get me everything we have on damaged Concordat ships. I want to know exactly what kind of weapons made those marks." 3 days later, Admiral Sutton received another visit from Velix. This time, the alien looked truly frightened. "They're coming," he said. "The defense line at Proxima Centauri has fallen. The swarm will reach your solar system within days." Olivia immediately ordered Earth's small fleet to battle stations. Despite continued denials from Ambassador Zelnar, most governments began emergency preparations. People in major cities were told to prepare for possible evacuation. Susan Rivera was summoned to defense headquarters. She brought samples of her composite armor. "We need as much of this as you can make," Admiral Sutton told her. "If these swarm creatures use biological weapons like Velix suggests, energy shields might not stop them." "I'll need factories, materials, workers," Susan replied. "You'll have them. Start immediately." The first sign of the swarm came as a series of distress calls from Jupiter's moons. The Concordat observation posts there suddenly went silent. Then long-range sensors detected 3 massive objects entering the solar system. Ambassador Zelnar finally addressed the United Nations again, this time without his usual confidence. "The Concordat regrets that a minor border conflict has spilled into your system," he said. "We assure you our forces will handle this situation promptly." But the remaining Concordat ships were already retreating toward the inner planets. Some fled the system entirely. Major Daniel Kelly's team finally intercepted and decoded a message between Concordat vessels. "They're abandoning us," he told Admiral Sutton. "Their orders are to protect only their own people and key technology. Earth is considered expendable." Olivia wasn't surprised. "Then we'll have to save ourselves." The first images of the swarm ships chilled everyone who saw them. Unlike the sleek Concordat vessels, these were massive, irregular structures that seemed to be made of fused-together parts of other ships and strange organic material. They moved with unexpected speed and purpose. The few concordant warships that engaged them were quickly destroyed. The advanced alien weapons seemed to have little effect on the swarm's organic hulls. 7 days after they entered the solar system, the swarm reached Earth orbit. Smaller craft separated from the 3 hive ships and descended toward major cities around the world. All units, defensive positions, Admiral Sutton ordered from the command center. This is not a drill. On the ground, Susan Rivera watched as trucks loaded with her composite armor headed toward defensive lines. She had worked non-stop, and factories worldwide had produced enough to equip several divisions of soldiers. "Will it be enough?" asked Ben, who had helped supervise production. "I don't know," Susan admitted. "But it's better than nothing." The first swarm landing craft touched down outside Denver. When they opened, horror emerged. The creatures inside were part insect, part machine, with multiple limbs and weapons that seemed to grow directly from their bodies. They moved with terrifying speed and coordination. Earth's military forces engaged immediately. The battle for humanity's survival had begun, and to everyone's shock, the supposedly primitive humans didn't break. They didn't run. They fought. The battle outside Denver was chaos. Swarm creatures swarmed across the landscape, their bodies a nightmare mix of insect parts and metal. They fired strange weapons that shot green acid instead of bullets. Trees melted, buildings dissolved, but the humans didn't retreat. Colonel John Hayes led the 4th Infantry Division, newly equipped with Susan Rivera's composite armor. The soldiers had only trained with it for 3 days, but it was their best hope. "Hold the line," he shouted as the first wave of creatures approached. "Fire at will." Traditional bullets seemed to bounce off the swarm's outer shells. Tanks fired, with more effect, but there were too many creatures. Then the first acid spray hit a group of soldiers. To everyone's surprise, Susan's armor didn't melt. The acid bubbled and steamed against the composite material, but couldn't eat through it. "The armor works," John called over the radio. "Close combat teams, move in." The concordant observers watched in shock from their remaining ships. Human soldiers, protected by what the aliens had called primitive armor, charged directly at the Yeo swarm. They fought with rifles, bayonets, even combat knives when necessary. What they lacked in technology, they made up for in courage and adaptability. Admiral Sutton watched the battle feeds from command headquarters. "Send reinforcements to the eastern flank," she ordered. "And get me Major Kelly." Daniel Kelly arrived minutes later, his uniform dusty from the field. "Admiral, I need intelligence on these things. Weaknesses, communication methods, anything." "We're working on it," Daniel said. "We've captured some swarm technology, but it's unlike anything we've seen." "What about the Concordant? Are they helping at all?" Daniel shook his head. "Most of their ships have fled. Ambassador Zelnar and a small group remain in lunar orbit, but they're not engaging." Olivia's face hardened. "Then we do this ourselves." Across the world, similar battles raged. Paris, Lagos, Sydney, Mumbai. The swarm targeted major population centers, but everywhere met the same fierce resistance. Human tactics developed through centuries of fighting other humans proved surprisingly effective. In Chicago, Susan Rivera worked frantically to improve her armor. The swarm adapted quickly, their acid becoming stronger with each attack. She needed to stay one step ahead. "The molecular structure needs to be tighter," she told her team. "Version 3 should use the carbon nanotube weave." Ben Carter looked up from his computer. "Susan, you haven't slept in 2 days." "I'll sleep when we're safe," she replied, not looking up from her work. In the sky above, the remaining Concordant ships finally moved to engage one of the 3 main swarm hive ships. Their advanced energy weapons fired brilliant beams that cut through space. For a moment, it seemed the tide might turn. Then the hive ship released thousands of smaller craft. They swarmed around the Concordant vessels like angry insects, attaching to their hulls. One by one, the alien ships stopped firing. Some exploded. Others drifted, dead in space. On the ground, Major Daniel Kelly led a special operations team toward a downed swarm shuttle. They moved silently through the ruins of what had once been a suburban neighborhood outside Atlanta. According to thermal imaging, nothing's moving inside, his sergeant whispered. Stay alert anyway, Daniel replied. We need to secure that craft intact. They approached cautiously, weapons ready. The shuttle was smaller than others they'd seen, possibly a scout craft. Its surface pulsed slightly, as if breathing. Breach team, move in, Daniel ordered. The inside of the craft was even stranger than the outside. Organic material merged with technology in ways that defied understanding. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with strange fluids. No crew, reported one soldier. But there's some kind of control interface. Daniel examined the strange growth that served as the ship's computer. Part plant, part electronic, it glowed with inner light. Package it up, he said. Carefully. We need to get this to our tech team. Back at command, computer scientist Grace Wilson stared at the alien interface they'd recovered. She had been working for the military cyber division before the invasion, specializing in network security. It's not responding to any known protocols, she told Admiral Sutton, but there are patterns in its energy signatures. Can you hack it? Olivia asked bluntly. Grace smiled slightly. Given time, I can hack anything, even this biological computer. For 3 days and nights, Grace and her team worked nonstop. The swarm continued their attack, but human resistance was proving stronger than expected. Susan's improved armor was now being mass-produced in factories around the world. Soldiers learned to fight the creatures more effectively, targeting joint areas and sensory organs. Finally, Grace called Admiral Sutton to her lab. We're in, she said, her eyes red from lack of sleep. And we've found something interesting. The swarm isn't one mind. They're controlled by nodes. Each hive ship has a central brain that coordinates all units connected to it. So if we destroy the brain, Olivia began. We take out 1/3 of their forces, Grace finished. But getting to it won't be easy. It's at the center of each hive ship, heavily protected. Olivia studied the schematics Grace had pulled from the alien computer. We need a plan. On the moon, Ambassador Zelnar finally requested a meeting with Earth's leaders. His once proud demeanor was gone, replaced by grim resignation. The Concordat fleet has been defeated, he admitted. Our remaining forces are retreating to core worlds. I regret to inform you that Earth is on its own. President Garcia didn't bother hiding her anger. You brought this war to our doorstep. You used us as a shield. That was not our intention, Zelnar replied. But yes, the result is the same. For what it's worth, your species has fought with remarkable effectiveness. No one expected humans to last this long. We're not just lasting, Admiral Sutton said, stepping forward. We're going to win. Zelnar's eyes shifted to a deep blue, a color humans had learned indicated surprise. How? You have no ships capable of attacking the hive vessels. Olivia revealed the plan developed with Grace's intelligence. A joint strike force would use retrofitted mining vessels, covered in Susan's composite armor. They would approach the primary hive ship under cover of a nuclear detonation in orbit, which would briefly blind the swarm's sensors. Your plan is primitive, Zelnar said, but without the usual condescension. Yet it might work. Precisely, because it's unexpected. Will you fight with us? President Garcia asked. Zelnar was quiet for a moment. The few Concordat warriors who remain will join you. We have much to atone for. The plan was set. Earth would strike back against the invaders, using human ingenuity and determination instead of advanced technology. As preparations began, news spread across the battle-weary planet. For the first time since the invasion, people dared to hope. The primitive humans were about to show the galaxy what they could do. The mining ships looked nothing like warships. They were bulky, built for digging into asteroids, not fighting. Now, covered in Susan Rivera's composite armor and fitted with whatever weapons Earth could spare, they prepared for the most important mission in human history. Admiral Sutton walked through the launch bay, inspecting the makeshift fleet. 12 ships, crewed by volunteers, miners, military personnel, and a few Concordat warriors who had remained to fight. Are you sure this will work? Asked President Garcia, who had come to see the mission off. No, Olivia admitted. But it's Our best chance, Major Daniel Kelly would lead the boarding team. He checked his equipment one last time. Armor, weapons, and the special payload, components for a tactical nuclear device, designed to be assembled on-site to avoid detection. Ready, Major? Olivia asked. Daniel nodded. As ready as anyone can. Beat aboard an alien hive ship. Susan Rivera was there too, making last-minute adjustments to the armor. The latest version was their strongest yet, resistant to both acid and the strange energy weapons the swarm used. The armor will hold, she told Daniel. Just don't let them hit the same spot too many times. Even this material has limits. Ambassador Zelnar approached the humans. The alien's usually perfect appearance was now ragged, his uniform torn in places. I have studied your history, he said. Humans have faced extinction-level threats before. Plagues, world wars, climate disasters. Each time, you survived. We're stubborn that way, Olivia replied. Indeed. The Concordat has been at peace so long we forgot how to fight with desperation. Zelnar's eyes shifted to a reddish hue. Today, we will learn from you. The plan was set. First, a nuclear detonation in high orbit would create an electromagnetic pulse and a radiation spike that would temporarily blind the swarm's sensors. During that window, the mining fleet would approach the primary hive ship. The vessels were slow, but their thick armor might get them close enough. Once there, boarding teams would fight their way to the central node while the remaining ships provided cover. It was a plan that relied more on courage than technology. Launch in 30 minutes, announced the control tower. All crews to your ships. As the teams prepared to board, Grace Wilson rushed into the hangar carrying a small device. Wait, she called to Major Kelly. I've modified this signal jammer based on what we learned from the swarm computer. It might disrupt their communication for a few minutes once you're inside. Daniel took the device. Every advantage helps. Thank you. The launch was tense but uneventful. The mining ships, never designed for combat maneuvers, lumbered away from Earth. In orbit above them, the three massive swarm hive ships continued their assault on the planet below. They seemed to pay little attention to the small fleet. They don't see us as a threat, observed Captain Liam Foster, pilot of the lead ship. Good. The nuclear device detonated precisely on schedule. A blinding flash filled space, followed by waves of radiation and electromagnetic disturbance. Communications went silent for 30 seconds. All ships full thrust, ordered Admiral Sutton from her command post on Earth. Close distance now. The mining vessels surged forward, pushing their engines beyond safe limits. For a few precious moments, the swarm seemed confused, their smaller craft flying in erratic patterns around the hive ships. Then the enemy responded. Thousands of swarm fighters peeled away from Earth's atmosphere, turning to face the approaching threat. Green energy beams sliced through space. Evasive action, Captain Foster yelled, but the bulky mining ships couldn't dodge easily. 2 exploded, immediately. 3 more took heavy damage but kept going. We're losing too many, Olivia said, watching the battle from Earth. They'll never make it. Then something unexpected happened. The remaining Concordat warships previously hanging back near the moon suddenly accelerated into the fight. They were few, but their advanced weapons drew the swarm's attention. The aliens are giving us cover, said Grace, watching beside Olivia. They're sacrificing themselves. The distraction worked. 7 mining ships reached the primary hive ship, crashing directly into its organic hull. Boarding hatches opened and assault teams poured out. Major Kelly led the first team into the hive ship. The interior was a nightmare, pulsing organic, corridors that seemed to breathe, strange growths that might have been technology or living tissue. The air smelled like rotting meat and electrical fire. Stay together, Daniel ordered his team. Remember your training. They hadn't gone 50 meters before the first swarm defenders attacked. These weren't the soldier types they'd fought on Earth. These were smaller, faster, clearly designed for internal defense. They swarmed forward in a wave of claws and teeth. The humans fired in controlled bursts, aiming for what looked like sensory organs. Susan's armor protected them from the worst attacks, but 2 soldiers fell in the first exchange. Keep moving, Daniel shouted. We need to get deeper. According to the schematics they'd extracted, the central node was 3 levels down, near the core of the ship. They fought their way through narrow passages, encountering increasingly fierce resistance. Outside, the battle raged. The remaining mining ships attached themselves to the hive ship like ticks, drilling into its hull to create more entry points. The last Concordat vessels fought with surprising ferocity, their crews having learned from watching humans fight on Earth. Susan Rivera watched the feeds from the soldiers' helmet cameras. Each time she saw her armor save a life, she felt a surge of pride. The technology the Concordat had dismissed as primitive was now humanity's best defense. "They're approaching the central chamber," Grace reported, tracking the team's progress. Inside, the hive ship, Daniel's team had been reduced to 7 people. They reached a massive door, part metal, part organic tissue, that blocked their path. "This is it," Daniel said, checking the schematics. "The node should be just beyond." They placed shaped charges on what looked like weak points. The explosion was muffled by the strange material, but the door shuddered and split open. The chamber beyond was unlike anything they'd seen. In the center floated a massive brain-like structure, pulsing with light and energy. Tendrils extended from it in all directions, connecting to the ship's systems. "That's the target," Daniel said. "Set the charges." As his team moved forward, a new type of defender emerged. Larger, more humanoid, clearly more intelligent than the others. They wielded weapons that fired not acid but some kind of plasma that could melt even Susan's armor. "Take cover," Daniel shouted as his team scattered. The battle for the central chamber was brutal and quick. 4 more humans fell. Daniel used Grace's signal jammer, which bought them a few precious seconds of confusion among the defenders. "Charges set," called the last surviving engineer. 2-minute timer. Daniel nodded. "Fall back to the extraction point." But as they turned to leave, he realized that the path back was now blocked by dozens of swarm creatures. There would be no escape. Daniel looked at his 2 remaining team members. They nodded in understanding. "Command, this is Major Kelly," he said into his radio. "Charges are set. Central node will be destroyed in 90 seconds. Admiral Sutton's voice came through, broken by static. "Extraction team is coming. Hold." "Negative," Daniel interrupted. "No time. Make it count, Admiral." He switched off his radio and readied his weapon for the final stand. On Earth, Olivia bowed her head briefly, then looked up with determination. "All remaining ships, pull back immediately. Nuclear detonation imminent." The countdown reached 0. The explosion inside the primary hive ship was blinding. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the massive alien vessel shuddered. Cracks spread across its surface like spider webs. Secondary explosions followed as systems failed. Finally, the entire structure broke apart in a silent, devastating display. On Earth, military bases erupted in cautious cheers as sensors confirmed the destruction. But Admiral Sutton remained somber. "What about the other 2 hive ships?" she asked. Grace Wilson studied her screens. "Something's happening. The swarm fighters around the destroyed ship are drifting. They seem disoriented." Just as Grace had predicted, each hive ship controlled its own portion of the swarm. With the primary node destroyed, nearly a third of the enemy forces were now disabled. "The remaining hive ships are changing position," reported a sensor officer. "They're moving away from Earth." Olivia leaned forward. "They're retreating?" "Not retreating," Grace corrected. "Regrouping. They're adapting to the loss." The battle was far from over. On the ground, swarm forces continued their attack, though with less coordination than before. In North America, Susan Rivera led the defense of one of the last secure human strongholds. Her factory now stood at the center of a fortified zone, outside Chicago. "They're coming again," shouted Ben as a new wave of creatures approached the barricades. Susan's improved armor had been distributed to all defenders. When traditional weapons failed, humans used whatever they could find: construction equipment, farm machinery, even sports equipment modified into weapons. "We need to hold out," Susan told the exhausted defenders. The plan worked. 1 hive. Ship is down. We just need to survive. In space, the remaining Concordate ships regrouped near Earth. Ambassador Zelnar contacted Admiral Sutton. "Your strategy succeeded beyond all expectations," the alien said, his eyes now a deep purple. "Respect. The sacrifice of Major Kelly and his team will not be forgotten." "We need to press the advantage," Olivia replied. "Can your ships target the second hive ship?" "We have limited weapons remaining, but yes. However, we will need another distraction." Second attack was hastily planned. Earth had few resources left, but desperation bred creativity. The remaining mining ships were joined by whatever could fly: retrofitted passenger shuttles, scientific vessels, even orbital maintenance craft. None were designed for battle, but all were crewed by volunteers. This time, the swarm was ready. The second hive ship surrounded itself with a dense cloud of fighters. Breaking through seemed impossible. "We need a new approach," Olivia told her war council. "They've adapted to our tactics." Susan Rivera, called up from the ground defense, studied the problem. "What if we don't try to board them this time? What if we turn their own biology against them?" Grace looked up. "What do you mean?" "From what we've learned, the hive ships are partly organic. They respond to threats like a living organism." Susan pointed to simulation data. "If we introduce something that looks like a disease or parasite, they might defend against it differently." The plan took shape quickly. The remaining Concordate ships would engage the swarm fighters directly, while Earth vessels would fire specially designed missiles. Instead of explosives, these would carry a harmless but highly reactive chemical compound that would trigger the hive ship's immune response. "It's like giving someone an allergic reaction to distract them," Susan explained. "President," Garcia gave immediate approval. "Do it." The battle for the second hive ship was even more desperate than the first. The Concordate ships, already damaged, took heavy losses. Earth's makeshift fleet fared little better, but enough missiles got through. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The hive ship's outer surface began to convulse and shift, turning resources inward to fight the perceived infection. Defensive fighters were pulled back to protect the vessel. In that moment of vulnerability, the last Concordate warship made its move. Ambassador Zelnar himself commanded the vessel as it accelerated directly toward the distracted hive ship. The warship was heavily damaged, leaking atmosphere and power, but its weapons still functioned. "For Earth," Zelnar said simply before. His ship crashed into the weakened section of the hive vessel, its remaining energy weapons firing at full power. The second hive ship didn't explode like the first. Instead, it seemed to collapse inward, its structure failing catastrophically. The effect on its fighters was the same. They became directionless, easy targets for Earth's remaining defenses. On the ground, the change was immediate. Swarm forces, attacking Susan's position, suddenly stopped their coordinated assault. Some simply stood motionless. Others turned on each other in confusion. "It's working," Ben shouted. "They're losing cohesion." The third and final hive ship immediately broke orbit. Unlike the others, it made no attempt to fight. Instead, it accelerated away from Earth, abandoning its ground forces. "They're running," Olivia said in disbelief. "The last hive is retreating." For 6 more days, humans fought to eliminate the remaining swarm creatures on Earth. Without central control, the aliens were still dangerous, but no longer coordinated. One by one, the fighting stopped. Humanity had won, but at terrible cost. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died. 1 month after the last swarm fighter was defeated, a new Concordate fleet arrived. These ships were larger, more powerful than those that had come before. They approached Earth cautiously, broadcasting peace signals. Admiral Sutton, now leading Earth's interim government, met with the new Concordate representative aboard their flagship. Unlike Zelnar's initial condescension, this alien showed immediate respect. "I am Grand Marshal Kelver of the Concordate Defense Force," the alien said, bowing deeply. "I come to formally invite Earth to join the Galactic Concordate, not as a protectorate but as a full member world." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "What changed?" "Everything," Kelvar replied. "News of Earth's defense has spread throughout the galaxy. No species has ever repelled the swarm before. Your unconventional tactics succeeded where our advanced technology failed. In the following weeks, the Concordat shared their technology freely. Earth began to rebuild, incorporating alien advances while maintaining their own unique approaches. Susan. Rivera's composite armor became the basis for a new type of ship design that combined Concordat energy shields with physical protection. Grace Wilson led a joint intelligence task force, hunting the remaining swarm hive ship. Her team included both humans and Concordat specialists, combining different ways of thinking. 6 months later, the first official Earth ship prepared to leave the solar system. Built with Concordat drive technology, but bearing the distinctive composite armor that had saved the planet, it carried a mixed crew of humans and aliens. Admiral Sutton addressed them before launch. "You carry with you the spirit that defended Earth, not just our technology or our weapons, but our determination. The galaxy has learned that being primitive doesn't mean being weak. Sometimes the oldest solutions are still the best." As the HFY ship departed, a memorial was unveiled in Geneva. It bore the names of those who had fallen, including Major Daniel Kelly and Ambassador Zelnar. Beneath the names was inscribed a simple message: "They called us primitive. Now they call us allies."